Captain Vex stood on the bridge of his massive warship, the Dominion's Edge, watching the small human vessel drift helplessly in space. Its engines had failed after his weapons had disabled them with surgical precision. The little research ship looked pathetic compared to his flagship. Barely the size of one of his cargo holds, target secured. "Captain," reported his weapons officer, a tall Carathian with the typical blue-scaled skin and 4 arms that marked their species. "The human vessel is completely disabled." Vex nodded, his own scales shifting to a deeper blue color that indicated satisfaction. In his 300 years of service to the Carathian Empire, he had never failed to claim a prize he wanted. His reputation stretched across 12 star systems as the captain who collected the rarest specimens for the Empire's research divisions. Today would add another success to his perfect record. "Send a boarding party," Vex commanded. "I want the occupant brought to me alive and unharmed. This human will make an excellent addition to my collection." The boarding party returned within an hour, escorting a single human male. Vex studied his new prize with interest. The human appeared to be in his early 30s by their species standards, with brown hair and calm green eyes that showed no fear. Most creatures cowered when brought before Captain Vex. This one simply looked around the bridge with what seemed like curiosity. "I am Captain Vex of the Carathian Imperial Fleet," Vex announced in his deep voice. "You are now my claimed property under the ancient laws of the Empire. State your name and purpose in this sector." The human straightened but showed no signs of panic. "My name is Ben. I'm a xenobiologist from Earth. I was studying the unique plant life on the 3rd planet of the Zeta system when your ships appeared." Vex found the human's calm response unusual. Most species either begged for mercy or tried to bargain for their freedom at this point. Ben simply waited for what would come next, his eyes moving around the bridge as if he was memorizing every detail. "You will be housed in special quarters until we reach our destination," Vex continued. "Do not attempt escape. My ship has security systems that have never been defeated." Ben nodded. "I understand." "May I ask where we're going?" The question surprised Vex. Prisoners usually asked when they would be released, not where they were being taken. "That is not your concern, human." "Fair enough," Ben replied. "Could I at least request that my research notes be brought from my ship? I was in the middle of documenting some fascinating discoveries about adaptive plant evolution." Vex stared at the human. In all his years of taking prisoners, none had ever asked for their work materials. Most begged for food, water, or contact with their families. This Ben seemed more concerned about his research than his own fate. "Your belongings will be examined and appropriate items may be provided," Vex said finally. "Guards, escort the prisoner to Containment Suite 7. As Ben was led away, Vex found himself thinking about the human's strange behavior. There had been no pleading, no threats, no desperate offers to trade information for freedom. Just calm acceptance and a request for research notes. It was unlike anything he had encountered before. Containment Suite 7 was the finest prison on the ship. Vex had designed it personally for his most valuable specimens. The room was large and comfortable, with a bed, desk, viewing window, and even a small kitchen area. Most prisoners were so grateful for the luxury that they became cooperative quickly. 2 hours later, Vex decided to check on his new prize. He found Ben sitting at the desk, reading through his research notes that had been approved for transfer. The human looked up when Vex entered. "Thank you for allowing me to have these," Ben said. "I hope you don't mind that I organized them a bit." The original filing system was rather chaotic. Vex looked at the neat stacks of papers and data tablets. "You spent your time organizing documents?" "Old habit," Ben replied with a small smile. "A disorganized lab leads to disorganized thinking. I noticed your ship has some interesting bioluminescent panels in the corridors. Are those decorative or functional?" The question caught Vex off guard again. "They are functional. They provide light using modified algae colonies that respond to the ship's electrical systems." Ben's eyes lit up with genuine interest. "That's remarkable engineering. How do you prevent the colonies from overgrowing and clogging the light distribution network?" Vex found himself explaining the filtration system before he realized what he was doing. No prisoner had ever asked about ship operations, let alone shown real understanding of the technical aspects. Most alien species the Carathians encountered were far less advanced. "The maintenance is actually becoming a problem," Vex admitted. "The algae seems to be evolving faster than our cleaning protocols can handle." "Evolutionary pressure in a controlled environment," Ben mused. That's exactly what I was studying on the planet. May I ask what happens when the algae overgrows? For the next 30 minutes, Vex found himself in the most engaging technical discussion he had experienced in years. Ben asked thoughtful questions and offered insights that had never occurred to the Carathian engineers. The human's knowledge of biology was far more advanced than Vex had expected. When Vex finally left the containment suite, he realized he had forgotten why he came in the first place. He had intended to interrogate the human about Earth's defenses and technology. Instead, they had discussed algae management systems. Over the following days, Vex found excuses to visit Ben's quarters. Each conversation was different. Ben asked about Carathian culture, their history, their technology, and their exploration methods. In return, he shared fascinating details about Earth's biosphere and human scientific achievements. "Your people have only been in space for less than a century," Vex said during one of their talks. "Yet your biological sciences are more advanced than species we've known for millennia. How is this possible?" Ben considered the question carefully. "Humans are naturally curious about how things work. We ask why and how about everything. Plus, we share information freely among our scientists. No one person or nation tries to keep all the knowledge to themselves." The concept seemed strange to Vex. In Carathian society, knowledge was power, and power was closely guarded. "Your species shares all discoveries?" "The important ones, yes. We believe that solving big problems requires many minds working together, competition between ideas, cooperation between people." Vex spent hours thinking about this after their conversation ended. The Carathian Empire had conquered dozens of worlds, but their scientific progress had been slow for centuries. Perhaps there was something to the human approach. 3 weeks into the journey, Chief Engineer Kalo approached Vex with a problem. "Captain, the biosystems in Section 12 are failing again. The algae overgrowth is worse than ever, and now it's affecting the air recycling units." Vex remembered Ben's insights about evolutionary pressure and biological adaptation. "Have you tried adjusting the electrical frequency to slow the algae reproduction rate?" Kalo's scales shifted to a surprised yellow color. "Captain, how did you know about frequency adjustment? That's a theoretical approach we never tested." Vex realized he had learned the concept from Ben. "Run the tests. If that doesn't work, report back to me." 2 days later, Kalo returned with remarkable news. "Captain, the frequency adjustment worked perfectly. The algae growth is now stable, and the light output has actually improved by 15%. Where did you learn this technique?" Vex found himself in an uncomfortable position. He couldn't admit that his prisoner had provided the solution. Continue monitoring the system and implement the changes fleet-wide. But the algae problem was just the beginning. Ben's casual observations during their conversations provided solutions to issues that had puzzled Carathian engineers for years. The human's different perspective allowed him to see problems from angles the Carathians had never considered. When the navigation computer began showing minor errors, Ben suggested that the quantum processing cores might be experiencing interference from the ship's own bioluminescent systems. When the food synthesizers started producing bland meals, Ben explained how trace minerals affected taste and recommended adjusting the molecular filters. Each solution worked perfectly. Each success made Vex more impressed with human ingenuity. More troubling for Vex was how much he had begun to enjoy their daily conversations. Ben never seemed to run out of interesting questions or fascinating stories about Earth. The human described cities that floated on water, mountains that touched the clouds, and creatures that lived in the deepest oceans. He talked about human art, music, and literature with the same passion he showed for science. "Your species creates beauty for its own sake," Vex observed during one conversation. "Carathians build only what serves a function." "Beauty serves a function too," Ben replied. "It feeds the soul. Humans need more than just food and shelter to be truly alive. We need wonder, hope, and dreams of something better." Vex had never heard a prisoner speak about hope before. Most had given up by this point in their captivity. Ben seemed to find wonder in everything around him, even in his own imprisonment. The crew began to notice their captain's frequent visits to the containment suite. Some asked permission to speak with the human about technical problems. Vex found himself making excuses to keep Ben to himself. The human was his prize, his discovery, his claim. The idea of sharing Ben's knowledge with others made him uncomfortable in ways he didn't understand. "Captain," First Officer Rack said one day, "the engineering teams are requesting direct access to the human. His suggestions have solved 6 major system problems in the past month. Absolutely not, Vex replied sharply. The prisoner is my responsibility. All communication goes through me. Rack's scales shifted to a confused purple. Captain, if the humans' knowledge could benefit the entire fleet, wouldn't the Empire want us to use it? The question hit Vex like a physical blow. The Empire would indeed want access to Ben's knowledge. More than that, they would want to study how the human mind worked, how it could see solutions that escaped Carathian thinking. They would want to dissect Ben's brain to understand the source of human creativity. For the first time since claiming Ben, Vex began to worry about what would happen when they reached their destination. That night, Vex stood in his private quarters staring out at the stars. His perfect record of successful claims suddenly felt different. Every other specimen he had delivered to the Empire's research facilities had disappeared into laboratories never to be seen again. He had never cared before because they were just alien creatures, valuable for their biological uniqueness. But Ben was different. The human had shared knowledge freely, asked questions that made Vex think in new ways, and shown genuine interest in Carathian culture. Their conversations had become the highlight of Vex's day. The thought of handing Ben over to researchers who would treat him like a laboratory animal felt wrong in ways Vex couldn't explain. The next morning brought news that changed everything. A priority message arrived from Carathian High Command. Captain Vex, the holographic message began. Intelligence reports indicate you have captured a human specimen. You are ordered to deliver this creature immediately to Research Station Alpha for detailed biological analysis. Time is of the essence. The Empire requires complete understanding of human physiology and mental capabilities. Terminate your current mission and proceed directly to the station. Vex stared at the message for a long time after it ended. Research Station Alpha was notorious throughout the fleet. Specimens sent there were subjected to every form of analysis possible. They emerged as detailed reports and tissue samples, nothing more. For the first time in his 300-year career, Captain Vex found himself reluctant to follow a direct order from High Command. The human who had taught him about algae management and the beauty of wonder was about to become a laboratory experiment. Ben looked up from his research notes when Vex entered the containment suite. Good morning, Captain. I was just thinking about your ship's shield generators. Have you ever considered using biological components to make them more adaptive? Ben, Vex said slowly, we need to discuss your future. The human set down his papers and gave Vex his full attention. I assume we're approaching wherever you plan to take me. Yes, Vex replied. High Command has ordered me to deliver you to a research facility for study. Ben nodded calmly. I see. Will you be staying to observe the research? The simple question revealed how little Ben understood about what awaited him. No, I will deliver you and return to my regular duties. That's too bad, Ben said with genuine disappointment. I was hoping we could continue our discussions about comparative evolution. You have such an interesting perspective on how different species adapt to their environments. Vex felt something twist in his chest at Ben's words. The human faced an uncertain and probably terrible fate, yet he was disappointed that their conversations would end. No prisoner had ever expressed sadness at parting from their captor. Ben, Vex began, then stopped. He didn't know how to explain what Research Station Alpha really meant, without revealing how much their friendship had come to matter to him. Captain, are you all right? Ben asked with what sounded like genuine concern. You seem troubled. The fact that his prisoner was worried about his well-being made Vex's decision for him. He couldn't deliver Ben to the researchers, not now, not after everything they had shared. But refusing a direct order from High Command would mean the end of his career and possibly his life. Vex found himself trapped between duty to the Empire and loyalty to a human who had somehow become much more than just another claimed prize. As he looked at Ben's trusting face, Captain Vex realized that in trying to claim a human, he had instead been claimed by something far more powerful than any law or military order. The question now was what price he was willing to pay for this unexpected bond. The Dominion's Edge continued its course toward Research Station Alpha, but for the first time in his career, Captain Vex began to consider changing direction. Captain Vex spent the next 3 days avoiding Ben's containment suite. Every time he thought about their conversations, guilt twisted in his stomach like a living thing. He had filed false reports before, small delays and minor adjustments to mission schedules, but never outright disobedience to high command. The crew noticed his change in behavior. First Officer Rack approached him on the bridge during the night shift when fewer officers were present. "Captain, the engineering teams are still requesting time with the human prisoner," Rack said carefully. "Chief Engineer Kalo says the creature has solutions to problems we've been struggling with for months." "I said no," Vex replied without looking up from his command console. "Sir, with respect, the human's suggestions have improved ship efficiency by 12%. The crew is beginning to ask questions about why we're not using this resource fully." Vex's scales shifted to an angry red. "The prisoner is my claim. My responsibility. The crew will follow orders without question." Rack's own scales showed confusion. "Of course, Captain. But if High Command knew about the human's technical knowledge, they might want us to extract more information before delivery." The suggestion made Vex's blood run cold. If High Command learned about Ben's problem-solving abilities, they would order enhanced interrogation techniques. The human would suffer greatly before reaching Research Station Alpha. "No one contacts High Command about the prisoner," Vex ordered. "Anyone who sends unauthorized communications will face court-martial." Rack stepped back, clearly surprised by his captain's harsh tone. "Understood, sir." After Rack left, Vex stared at the star charts showing their route to Research Station Alpha. They would arrive in 4 days. 4 days to decide between his career and something he couldn't even name. Meanwhile, Ben continued his daily routine as if nothing had changed. He organized his research notes, wrote detailed observations about Corathian technology, and waited patiently for Vex's visits that no longer came. On the 4th day, without seeing his captain, Ben asked the guard who brought his meals a simple question. "Is Captain Vex all right? He seems to have stopped our regular discussions." The guard, a young Corathian named Zek, looked uncomfortable. "The captain is busy with important duties." "I understand," Ben replied. "Could you tell him that I finished my analysis of the shield generator efficiency problem? I think I found a way to improve power distribution by 23%. Zek's scales shifted to surprised yellow. Like all crew members, he had heard rumors about the human's technical insights. "I will deliver your message." When Zek reported Ben's offer to improve the shield generators, word spread quickly through the ship. The shield system had been operating at reduced capacity for weeks, making the vessel vulnerable during combat. If the human could fix it, every crew member's life would be safer. Chief Engineer Kalo approached Vex directly. "Captain, the human claims he can fix our shield problem. With respect, sir, this could save lives if we encounter hostile ships." Vex found himself trapped again. As captain, his duty was to protect his crew, but seeing Ben would make his coming decision even harder. "I will speak with the prisoner," Vex said finally. When Vex entered the containment suite, Ben looked up from his notes with a genuine smile. "Captain, I was beginning to worry about you. Are you feeling well?" The human's concern for his captor's health struck Vex like a physical blow. "I have been busy with ship operations." "Of course," Ben replied. "I hope you don't mind that I've been working on some technical problems in my spare time. Your shield generators have a fascinating design, but I noticed some inefficiencies in the power coupling systems." Despite his inner turmoil, Vex found himself drawn into the discussion. Ben's analysis was brilliant, identifying problems that Corathian engineers had missed completely. The solution was elegant and simple, requiring only minor adjustments to existing systems. This modification could be implemented fleet-wide, Vex said without thinking. "That would be wonderful," Ben replied enthusiastically. "Imagine how many lives could be saved with more reliable shields. Your people could explore dangerous sectors more safely." The human's genuine excitement about helping Corathians survive made Vex feel sick. Ben didn't understand that his insights would be extracted through torture and dissection at Research Station Alpha. The knowledge would help the Empire, but Ben himself would not survive to see it used. "Ben," Vex said slowly, "what do you know about Corathian research facilities?" "Not much," Ben admitted. "I assume they're similar to human research centers. Scientists working together to understand the universe better. Why do you ask?" Vex couldn't bring himself to explain the truth. "No reason. I should implement your shield modifications immediately." As Vex turned to leave, Ben called out to him. "Captain, may I ask you something personal?" Vex stopped but didn't turn around. "What? Do you enjoy our conversations?" I mean, do they have value to you beyond gathering intelligence? The question was so direct and honest that Vex found himself answering before he could think. Yes, they have great value to me. Good, Ben said with satisfaction. I was hoping we had become friends. The word friends hit Vex like a weapon blast. In Carathian culture, friendship was rare and precious. Most relationships were based on rank, duty, or mutual benefit. The idea that a prisoner would consider his captor a friend was impossible to understand. Yet as Vex thought about their conversations, he realized Ben was right. They had shared ideas, learned from each other, and enjoyed spending time together. By human standards, they were indeed friends. That night, Vex implemented Ben's shield modifications personally. The improvements worked perfectly, exactly as predicted. The crew was amazed by the 23% efficiency increase. Word of the humans' technical gifts spread throughout the ship. 2 days remained before reaching Research Station Alpha. The crisis came suddenly. The ship's long-range sensors detected 3 Zalarian battlecruisers approaching fast. The Zalarians were old enemies of the Carathian Empire, known for their aggressive tactics and powerful weapons. Battle stations, Vex ordered. Prepare for combat. The enemy ships were faster than the Dominion's edge and would intercept them within hours. Vex's vessel was powerful but outnumbered. The recent shield improvements would help, but the odds were still against them. Chief Engineer Kalo appeared on the bridge, his scales showing extreme stress. Captain, the main engines are showing strain fractures. If we push them hard during combat, they might fail completely. Time to engine failure under combat stress? Vex asked. Unknown, sir. Could be minutes or hours. The biomechanical systems are behaving unpredictably. Vex stared at the approaching enemy ships on his display screen. His vessel carried over 300 crew members. If the engines failed during battle, they would be helpless against the Zalarians. First Officer Rack approached quietly. Captain, the human has extensive knowledge of biomechanical systems. Perhaps he could suggest a solution. Vex felt the weight of command crushing down on him. His duty was to protect his crew, but consulting Ben would mean revealing military secrets to a prisoner. It would also make his coming betrayal of Ben even more terrible. The enemy ships grew closer. Time was running out. Bring the human to engineering, Vex ordered. Under heavy guard. Ben arrived in engineering within minutes, escorted by 4 armed guards. He looked around the massive chamber with obvious fascination, taking in the complex biomechanical systems that powered the ship. The engines are failing, Vex explained quickly. We need them operational for combat within the hour. Ben moved to the diagnostic displays, studying the readouts with intense concentration. These are incredible machines, living tissue integrated with mechanical components. The problem is metabolic stress. The biological parts are consuming energy faster than they can process waste products. Can you fix it? Chief Engineer Kalo asked desperately. Maybe, Ben replied. I need to understand how the biological and mechanical systems communicate with each other. For the next 40 minutes, Ben worked with the engineering team to trace the complex interactions between living and artificial components. His questions revealed problems the Carathians had never considered. His suggestions led to solutions they had never imagined. Try reducing the neural pathway frequency by 15%, Ben suggested. That should slow the metabolic rate without reducing power output. The modification worked immediately. The engine stress readings dropped to normal levels just as the Zalarian ships entered weapon range. Battle stations, Vex announced. All crew to combat positions. The engagement was fierce but brief. The improved shields held against Zalarian weapons, while the stable engines allowed complex maneuvering that confused the enemy. Within 2 hours, all 3 Zalarian ships were destroyed or disabled. The crew celebrated their victory, but Vex felt no joy. Ben's assistance had saved their lives, but it had also proven beyond doubt that the humans' knowledge was incredibly valuable to the Empire. High Command would be even more eager to begin their experiments. In the aftermath of battle, something unexpected happened. Word spread through the ship about how the human prisoner had saved them all. Crew members began asking questions about Ben's fate. Some even suggested that he deserved freedom for his help. Chief Engineer Kalo approached Vex privately. Captain, the crew is talking. They want to know what will happen to the human who saved our lives. That is not their concern, Vex replied. Sir, with respect, some of the crew are beginning to question the morality of delivering our savior to Research Station Alpha. They know what happens to specimens sent there. Vex felt his control slipping. The crew will follow orders or face punishment. Captain, Kalo said carefully, what if there was another option? What if the human could be more valuable as a living advisor than as a research subject? The suggestion was treasonous. Prisoners were not advisors. Claims were not colleagues. Yet Vex found himself considering the possibility. That evening, Vex visited Ben's quarters for what he believed would be the last time. They would reach Research Station Alpha the next day. Ben looked up from a complex diagram he was drawing. Captain, I've been working on modifications for your weapon systems. I think I can improve their accuracy by integrating biological targeting computers with mechanical firing controls. Ben, Vex interrupted. We need to talk. Something in Vex's tone made Ben set down his stylus. What's wrong? Tomorrow we reach our destination. You will be transferred to a research facility for detailed study. Ben nodded calmly. I assumed that was the plan. Will I be able to continue my research there? Vex struggled to find words. The research will be conducted on you, not by you. It took Ben a moment to understand. When comprehension dawned in his eyes, Vex saw not fear but sadness. I see, Ben said quietly. So our friendship was just part of your intelligence gathering? No, Vex said quickly. Our friendship is real. That's the problem. Ben studied Vex's face carefully. You don't want to deliver me to the researchers. I have orders. I have duties. I have a career and a reputation. Yes, Ben agreed. You also have a choice. The simple statement hung in the air between them. Vex had spent his entire life following orders without question. The idea of choice felt foreign and frightening. If I refuse to deliver you, I will be court-martialed and probably executed, Vex said. I know, Ben replied. I wouldn't ask you to sacrifice your life for mine. Then what are you asking? Ben smiled sadly. I'm not asking for anything, Captain. I'm just grateful that we became friends, even under these circumstances. You've shown me that friendship can exist between species who barely understand each other. That's more valuable than my life. Vex stared at his human friend, amazed by Ben's grace in the face of death. The alien had offered his life freely to save the ship. Now he faced dissection with dignity and gratitude. It was beyond Vex's understanding, yet deeply moving. There might be another way, Vex said slowly. What do you mean? High Command wants your knowledge, not necessarily your death. What if I could convince them that you're more valuable alive than dead? Ben's eyes widened with hope. You would do that for me? I would try, Vex replied. But it would mean taking enormous risks. If I fail, we both might die. And if you succeed, you might live, but you would never be free. You would spend your life serving the Empire. Ben considered this for a long moment. Would I be able to continue working with you? Possibly. Then I accept the risk, Ben said firmly. A life of service with friends is better than freedom without them. The next morning, Captain Vex composed the most important message of his career. Instead of delivering Ben to Research Station Alpha, he sent a detailed report to High Command explaining why the human was more valuable as a living advisor than as a research specimen. He listed every technical improvement Ben had suggested, every problem the human had solved, every way Ben's unique perspective had benefited the ship. He included testimony from crew members about how Ben had saved their lives during the battle with the Zilarians. Most importantly, Vex proposed a new program. Instead of dissecting exceptional specimens, the Empire should consider employing them as consultants and advisors. Ben could be the first test case proving that cooperation was more valuable than conquest. The response from High Command came within hours. Proposal denied. Deliver specimen immediately for scheduled research. Any deviation from orders will result in court-martial. Vex stared at the message for a long time. Then he deleted it from the ship's communication logs and composed a new message to his crew. Attention all hands, he announced over the ship's communication system. We have received new orders from High Command. The human advisor Ben will remain aboard our vessel to assist with technical operations. His status has been changed from prisoner to civilian consultant. It was a complete lie, but the crew accepted it with enthusiasm. They had seen Ben's value firsthand and approved of his new role. Chief Engineer Kalo appeared on the bridge within minutes. Captain, this is wonderful news. The human's insights could revolutionize our entire fleet. Yes, Vex agreed. It could. What Vex didn't tell his crew was that he had just committed treason against the Carathian Empire. By defying direct orders and falsifying communications from high command, he had guaranteed his own execution if discovered. But as he watched Ben working with the engineering team, sharing knowledge freely and building genuine friendships with the crew, Vex knew he had made the right choice. The human had taught him that some bonds were stronger than duty, some friendships more valuable than careers, and some truths more important than orders. Captain Vex had tried to claim a human as property, but instead had been claimed by concepts he barely understood: loyalty, friendship, and the revolutionary idea that former enemies could become family. Research Station Alpha waited for a delivery that would never come. High Command would eventually discover Vex's deception and send ships to retrieve both the captain and his specimen. But for now, aboard the Dominion's Edge, a Carathian captain and a human scientist worked together to solve problems that neither could handle alone. Their friendship had become a bridge between species, proving that understanding was more powerful than conquest. In trying to possess a human, Captain Vex had learned the most human lesson of all. True freedom came not from owning others, but from choosing whom to protect, whom to trust, and whom to call friend. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, full of possibilities that neither the Empire nor its enemies had yet imagined.